T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to the Play It By Ear podcast, the podcast where the topics may vary because, hey, we play it by ear. And now your hosts, Aric Fiskus and Brady Liming.
It's November on the Play It By Ear podcast. Brr. Actually, it's been too bad the past few days.
No.
It was more like
It's
October.
been a Native American summer.
Yes, indeed. All right. Episode 115 of the Play It By Ear podcast. My compadre, Brady Liming.
Hola.
And I'm Aric Fiskus, your co-host. What in the world is going on?
I think my dogs, Pepper and Bruno, somebody must have pulled in the driveway because they seem to be. Well, wait a minute. I just looked down just in case there's an intruder. But
Are you in your underwear?
I am not yet.
Good.
No, I'm kidding. No, oh,
Gotta
it was randomly
watch
sitting
those-
there. I didn't plan that.
Gotta watch those hammer wielding intruders.
Yes.
All right. So what was it you said? By the way, everyone who's in the room, check in.
Please check in.
What was it you wanted me to talk about?
Oh gosh, some tweet about Taco Bell.
Oh yeah. So found this tweet today. It was from Taco Bell talking about Mexican pizza, which seems to be a very popular menu item that was on again, off again, and
Kind
Taco
of like
Bell
the McRib.
tweeted- Yeah, the McRib. Taco Bell tweeted, the Mexican pizza is so popular, we're still trying to find ingredients for it. We're going to stock up on ingredients and it will be here to stay. So one of the responses to that tweet was from the Northeast Ohio Sewer District. And the response was, we'll be ready. And it took me a moment. thought,
It was
we'll
a
be
slow
ready.
burn.
It
Slow
was
build
a
up.
slow burn. It was a slow burn.
Oh.
Like, hey, yeah, now I get it. That's funny.
Allison, Tanya, James,
Yes.
Miss Wilson, welcome
Yes.
aboard.
Yes. Hello, Allison. Tanya, welcome. Jim, Miss Wilson. All right. Once again, episode 115 of the Play It By Ear podcast. If you've not been here before, we talk.
You're in for a treat.
Yeah, right. We each have a topic we've never talked about before. We'll talk about the topic until that topic is exhausted. I have been saying, we usually say 20-ish minutes. I've even been setting the clock. It's like, we'll just
Back
talk
in the
about till
old
we're done.
days.
Yeah, we'll just talk about till we're done talking about. There's only two of us. I mean, it's not going to go 5 hours or anything, I don't think.
Back in the old days when the podcast started and we were self-disciplined, we actually had a timer. If you listen to our earlier episodes, you could hear the thing in the background.
Yeah.
And then
we'd actually stop when that went off.
yes.
Now not
And
so
now we
much.
just say, shut it.
Shut it.
Alarm.
Gary Troutman, welcome.
Yeah.
All right, so we are in the order on the camera, which we will go with our topics. Brady, if you would please visit our website, www.playitbyearpodcast.com. We'll talk about that website here shortly.
And
Again,
before we start our topics, if you don't mind, Eric, because we're talking about the website, I would like to
right.
welcome Mr. Tim Hoagland and Ms. Natalie Wagner for being the latest fashionistas of a Play It by Ear t-shirt.
Bravo. Bravo. And Mr. Hoagland's band got a superior rating at their state band competition. So
Yes.
congrats to them.
And your nephew.
My great nephew.
Your great
How
nephew.
old
That's
I am.
yes.
Great nephew. My niece's son. So
And they were phenomenal.
they're very good. All right, Brady. You're up.
Okay. I'm up. I'm bringing something to the plate here. So I was listening to my daughter talk the other day, my 16-year-old, and she was just talking about some things that she had just had to do a checkup, a sports physical, not too long ago, and she was griping about awkward, and there was nothing really involved. I'm like, well, what are you griping about? They just weighed you, and there was nothing intrusive, which got me into laughing and thinking about at the doctor's office, awkwardness, stories, and things we just don't like. And so the everybody's had those humorous moments at the doctor's office. And just to share a couple of them. And like I said, there's just things that we don't like. Um, I could start off by saying it's not the physician's fault in most cases. I only have one story, which I'm going to kind of call a physician into task, but I haven't seen this physician in 30 something years. So I think it's okay to discuss it. But and like I said, we would like our listeners out there to be thinking, everybody's had one of these stories, right? It can't only be
I'm
me.
I'm I'm sure.
So, I will start off with, I'm gonna come to the plate swinging my best bat. I'm gonna bring my best
Okay.
ingredient for this first story, and probably one of the most humiliating and awkward doctor stories ever. So to set the plate a little bit, I was only a lad of 19 at the time, and not seeing my family doctor, as I was a student at Ohio State University. I had to visit the student clinic my sophomore year. So, to make a long story short, I had woken up and I just well, let's be honest, peeing was difficult. It hurt. So I was like, oh man, I probably not been drinking enough or something. It's like, do I have an infection? So I went to the clinic and told them the story. And
Was there anything else going through your mind, Brady?
no, not at the moment. Well, and I see what you did there, but that actually comes into play, but not for the reasons you think. Now, so I'm telling this doctor, they will remain nameless, but English was a second language, okay,
Yeah.
and they were not this lady. She was a female doctor and was not the most pleasant bedside manner, and she was not warm and fuzzy. So I'm just thinking, it's like, hey, do I have a, you know, kidney infection or something? It's like, it's pretty awful, and I don't want to be getting sick.
Yeah.
And he proceeds to tell me, okay, we're going to do a couple tests. And I immediately kind of like, a couple. I just thought, usually basically it's a pee test and, they figure out, oh, no, 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 no. Okay, now let's tell you a little bit more about me at age 19. I looked like I was 14 years old. I was not a man on campus that was, cavorting at the sororities and things like that. And I was a pretty naive babe in the woods. Okay, so let's just put it bluntly: I was not dating or anything. Okay, and so proceeds to tell me, is like, well, you need to pee in the cup, and then I need to do another test. And I'm like, what kind of test? I was like, blood test? No. Oh, I started breaking into a cold sweat. Like, because I really had no idea what's going to go on. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to get X-rays? My parents are going to get upset at me. This is going to go. My insurance is going to get expensive. So no, we are going to check for another kind of bacterial infection. And I'm like running the scenarios through my mind, and I'm like, like strep throat? Well, yes and no.
Yes and
We're
no.
going to be using a swab, but we're not going to be testing your throat. Now,
Say ah.
I know is what I said. Now, see that this is where it gets awkward because, like, literally, 19-year-old me, I literally was faced with that base animal instinct, that fight or flight. I was going to flight. I was literally thinking about sprinting toward the door. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if they, lock the door and don't let me out? I wasn't rational because I was terrified. I was anxious and I was just really skeezed out about in my mind, what was going to happen. And I'm like, Doc, that's just not necessary. There's nothing, whatever you're thinking about, that's not going on. So we don't need to deal with that. No, we need to do the test. I'm like, I don't think so. And she got really snippy with me. It's like, you are going to do the test. I'm like, all right. And I still wasn't sure what was going to happen. So I'm like thinking in my head, maybe this isn't what I'm thinking it is. It was what I thought it was. So she said, you need to remove your trousers. And I'm like, I don't think so. It's like, I'm still thinking swabbing my throat. It's like, what is going to happen here? Well, I'm going to skip the part. Let's just say I had to have that awkward moment where this doctor had to, you know, uh, in an uncomfortable way, put a swab someplace that will just remain nameless. And I literally broke out into the coldest sweat and I about fainted on the spot.
So a swab into a place going entry that's usually an exit in the front.
Correct.
Yes.
And now, see, and like I said, this is a TV. Now you can fill in the blanks. Sometimes the mind filling in the blanks is a much more powerful storyteller. And but the thing is, it was the thought. Like, I will be honest, I really don't remember what happened too much, except I think I was in agony, and I have about 30 seconds that is erased from my memory and blank. Like, I still am not sure. I couldn't have fainted dead away because I was standing up, and I was still standing up. But there's 30 seconds where I can't recall details. So, after all this humiliation, after all this awkwardness, finally, maybe about a minute and a half to 2 minutes after this indignity, the nurse, now the doctor comes in. It's like, oh, we've been to tell doctor shows up. Your test came back. Have you been drinking a lot of orange juice? And I'm like, yeah, tons of it. I drank a whole gallon of Tropicana high pulp in the 2 days previous, and I just overdosed my system on citric acid.
So you were passing citric acid.
Basically, and pulp. Well, not yeah, no, that never mind. Um, but but it was so horrible because, like I said, now as an adult, of course I wouldn't like it, but we've got better coping, we're more mature. But 19-year-old me, that whole I about ran, I about fainted. I thought about taking a swing at her. There's all these complicated things that I was not mature enough to deal with yet. And it was frightening. And one of the most awkward situations in a medical facility I've ever been in my life. No, the most awkward.
Yeah. I got nothing to compete with that.
No, but I know you've got things that you don't. Everybody's gone to the doctor. They have those things that they don't like. Like somebody,
Yeah.
I know somebody quite well that they don't like feeling the cold stethoscope gives them anxiety. Absolutely nothing bad is going to happen, but they don't like the feeling of the coldness. So,
Well, Well, okay, I will say this. So, see now, Jim, that's what I was thinking. I think he has PTSD about it. That's why he lost that 30 seconds.
Whew.
Yes, therapy.
Therapy.
Two words.
Like
Therapy.
like I said, the mind filling in the blanks is a very powerful thing. And that situation was the mind filling in the blanks really bad.
So, so Allison says you should go to some army doctors.
Oh, yeah.
Miss Wilson, very simply, she was the a-hole.
Yes, she was. And she was so unpleasant. There was no bedside minute. It was like, you're here. You probably did something you shouldn't do. Let's check this out. And then, I kind of had the feeling she came at me like Abdul the Butcher with an ice pick on Wahoo McDaniel. Like we were not gentle. It's like, and at least that's what I think my mind was doing, and it was absolutely awful. Ugh.
So, okay, one thing at the doctor's office, one thing we kind of just mentioned before the show started, trying to. So, one thing they always want from you is a urine sample.
Oh, I was gonna say money. I'm kidding. I'm kidding on my doctor friends out there.
Yeah, that comes later. But I don't know how women do that, because I find it very difficult to. It's like there's way too much for the cup, so you kind of start, and then you're going, and the cup's filling up.
You can't shut it off, just like Jim Carrey says in Dumb and Dumber. It stings.
It stings. I think Richard Pryor had a bit about that too. Talking about the difference between men and women and cutting off their urine.
Oh, in the woods. Yeah, I remember that bit. She cut off just like that.
Yes. So he said they had stopped alongside the road because she had to go, and she's like, "Yeah, don't you watch?" And she squats down. He runs up behind her, goes, "There's a bear," and cuts it off. Like, not another drop. Men, I mean, men, they don't do that. It just kind of keeps going. And maybe it's inertia. Maybe it's just the
PSI.
The travel is a little longer, let's just say. So it's difficult to stop.
Oh,
before the cup is overflowing, and then you.
Yeah,
it's a mess.
And you would think the medical industry would just make a bigger receptacle cup, because you never, if they need more testing, they could do it instead of giving you that little thing that you find at the end, like if you have liquid Dimetap for your kids, like one of those microscopic little shot glasses. Well, shoot, I could sneeze enough to fill that up, and it's like 3 drops that you got to cut off, because of course, the one time you go in there and have to do the urine test, you've drank like 3 big gulps and driven from Columbus, and you're kind of like one of the Kentucky race horses lifting a leg right before you go out on the track. You keep going and going. They probably should have given you a gallon container. But
well, Richard Pryor's bit. Now I'm footnoting him here, but his bit went on to say that's one thing that doctors always want. That's one thing, and he went into another. But he said, now if I were working in the doctor's office and I had to be the one to go get the specimen, I'd be in a hazmat suit with tongs. He said, I'm going in to get the piss.
That's your piss right here.
Get it in the tongs. Everybody cleared the way. I'm coming with the piss. He said, those guys at the doctor's office, they just walk in. That your piss? Thank you. Just walks away. Yeah, so yeah. And maybe you probably just get desensitized to it.
Yeah, they probably do.
Yeah. So a couple comments here. So Allison, tried doing that in the Army too, where the Moor is an observer and they have to see it exiting your body for a drug test. Yeah.
Wowzers.
Tanya, you know, I mean, you've worked in the industry. You probably understand all this. I mean, it's the
We're
struggle is
glad.
real. So, Gary heard about a guy at college that put apple juice in a specimen cup for a physical. Then he said, "Didn't filter well. It'll run through again before drinking it in front of the nurse." That's awesome.
Oh.
Did the nurse faint?
Oh my. Yeah, that's embarrassing. Um or and I don't know. Now ladies, I know that the kind of exams you have are a little bit more up close and personal than us gentlemen have to, face a lot of times,
Oh
but
yeah, they
um
have it much worse than us when it comes to that.
they do. But I did here we go. I did had to kind of get an endocrine examination once, and they had to examine, well, Brady's limings, and 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 it was really embarrassing because the doctor and that was very attractive. And now I shouldn't be complaining, but it was really awkward because he was like, you know, that almost made it worse. You know what I mean? I can't exactly explain why, but it did.
Oh,
If I have a doctor that looks
I
like Danny DeVito standing there, no, I love Danny DeVito, no offense, but you know what I mean. And
you're
but
telling people you can't explain why that was awkward? I know exactly why it was awkward.
well, but it was just awful.
Yeah, yeah. Now there are things that happen when you reach a certain age. You start to having tests, which honestly I'm overdue on. I should, but the mere thought of some of these tests, I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't.
Well, here's a funny story. There is an acquaintance, and see one of the biggest advancements in medical technology has been, when you get of a certain age, you have to have a colonoscopy, and there is a new product that you don't have to have the colonoscopy if there's no family history. It just involves an at-home test. This is the era of the at-home test. Well, you might have seen the commercials. It's called Cologuard, and it's for colon cancer screening. And basically,
Yes,
what one?
yeah, about that. So the commercials and
Yeah,
that little whatever that little bag just seems so happy. But you know what that bag is full of? Why is he so happy?
it's doing its job,
Well,
and
it's full of excrement,
it's fulfilling its destiny.
I guess.
So, but anyway, if you're not familiar, you don't have to have the intrusive, colonoscopy, where you have to drink the liquid of death, and that it makes it so there's a race to get out of your rear end and everything's winning. And um and then there's this the visual of, you know, buttocks up in the air and a camera going there. So, but anyway, this product has where you just have to take a stool sample, and you have to, prepare it, swab or something like that, and then you send it off via FedEx. Like the label and everything comes. Well, we had an acquaintance that went through that, sent, and then he got a call from, I forget if it was FedEx or it was the actual company, saying, "We're sorry, sir, but your sample spilled." Like, spilled. So evidently it had been damaged in transit. And
Yeah.
so
Did they realize what was spilled?
well, it does say biohazard contained, medical or something. So they must have pretty much figured it out, looked at the return. What I was wondering though, like, it was a return address. I hope they didn't send it back. But anyway, where they were sent a new test. But the double embarrassing thing about this is that A, you have to go through the process again, which isn't super fun. But then B, that the FedEx guy and the cleanup crew knows it's such and such on route such and such, house number such and such. Their feces is in a plane. now, and they had to clean. They, you know what I mean? So it's kind of that double embarrassing.
So, Miss Wilson, before being weighed, asking you could take off your coat, shoes, jacket, anything else that you can, and still keep your modesty. That's a fact.
Yeah.
All facts. Well, Brady, you you probably don't have that problem as much, but all right, Tanya, nurses and docs have seen it all. They don't want to see it any more than you want to show it. I'm sure that's true.
Yes.
Ugh.
Joey.
No way. Just here till the calves come on, huh? I see where we rate. That's fine. It's all right.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
with
It's okay. We get it. We get it.
you. Congrats to your Browns on the beatdown the other night.
Ah,
That was brutal.
I felt
Brutal.
I felt like I was in Bizarro World that night.
Yeah. All right. So I guess now you told on yourself. Now I'll tell on myself a little bit. So my son, who will be 22 years old here in a week from tonight, actually. So me and his mother went through fertility measures, and it starts out as a making sure where the problem lies. So both parties have to go through extensive tests and examinations and all that. So trying to figure out if my issue or I had an issue or she had an issue. So going through all that was rather uncomfortable with a urologist and all that. And then
Yeah.
basically remarking upon things while like it was the urologist and a nurse who was taking notes. He was like dictating, no pun intended, notes
Sorry.
to her.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see what I did there. Describing what he was seeing and what he was encountering was just probably about the most uncomfortable situation I've been in my whole life. On that same note, though, the next uncomfortable situation was my son was not conceived via normal means. It was we were not together in the same room when he was conceived.
In vitro.
Yeah, well, it wasn't in vitro. It was just artificial insemination, which is not as involved as in vitro, because in vitro they actually inject the sperm into the egg. In artificial insemination, I always say the turkey baster is the father, but and I was 3 counties away when he was conceived. So, but obviously you have to go to a place to provide said specimen, and you're in a room, and the people outside the room know what you're doing in the room. So that causes a bit of anxiety, let's just say.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah.
But
I mean, obviously everything turned out okay.
Yes, it did.
I'm glad I went through all that, and I have my sons with me and all that.
There you go. So all good.
All good.
Okay, now how about this, Aric? The cartoons and a lot of TV shows, like when you have to get a shot, they said, you have to drop trowel and, get an injection to your buttock.
I've had very few in my buttocks. Very few. Yeah.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about, because
medical injections in my buttocks.
There you go. Anyway, oh, what is James' comment? No, I'm sorry. But anyway, I don't know how old I went my entire childhood, never had to have that happen. And that's what was always depicted in, pop culture TV shows and all that kind of stuff, until I actually had to have one. And I don't, I'll be honest with you, I don't even recall. It might have been like my seventh grade booster shots or something, that kind of rings a bell. But, and of course,
Yeah.
now that you're 12 years old, 13 years old, when you were 4, you didn't know what was coming.
Right.
But it's like, so they said, okay, we're going to give you your shot. So I start rolling up my sleeve and they're like, no, 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 no. Huh? So and I had to get one in the buttock. And but here's what I remember about it. A, it was embarrassing and humiliating, but the shot didn't hurt, but afterwards was horrible. Because I remember going to school the next day and it had still that slab of wood and a pewter bolt. And my buttock was quite uncomfortable.
Well, back in those days, Brady, you probably had about as much uh, muscle and things in your arm as you did on your buttock.
That's probably Brady did not have back then.
No, you did not. All right, Jim, having a prostate exam and the doctor asking if someone can come in and observe after you've already been over the table. So you have to wait for the observer to come into the room, and that is an embarrassing experience.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now,
So was it
James, I
like
gotta ask, or Jim, were you making it funny, or did you experience that?
uh,
Because that sounds like a made up that sounds like a scenario not made up. But that sounds like a scenario that's like in a sitcom or something like that. You know what I mean? And if that actually
wa-
happened, oh holy cow, sir!
was it like Fletch? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Moon River. Wow. Whew. You using the whole fist there, Doc?
Dr. Jellyfinger. Yeah, we quote that movie a lot.
Yeah, we
Hey,
do.
can we throw in a little plug? Aric and I actually went to see the reboot of Fletch a few weeks ago. It was quite funny. I was pleasantly surprised.
As was I, because I was going to be a very very harsh critic of that, because Fletch holds a very high regard as far as um, my movie likes. On having a prostate exam, the doctor has Andre the Giant fingers.
He comes in and shakes your hands like shaking hands with a banana, like a bunch of bananas, It's like,
Uh,
oh man, that's unfortunate.
that is unfortunate. Now, is that a
Oh,
true story, or is that just
but
supposition there?
now, James, you triggered a much less traumatic memory. Um, when I was in first grade, me and the kid three houses down were like one of just a few kids that we were both vaccinated, but we got measles in first grade. So I had the good old fashioned 10-day measles. And but my
Did you
neighbor
give me
kid
the
and I,
measles? Because I had the measles too. Did I
you
get
had the
that from you?
measles?
I had the measles.
When?
Measles, and the chicken pox right around that time.
Well,
I think you gave me the
dude, I
measles.
don't think I ever knew that because me and I'll have to tell you who it is off the air. We were told like the state health department came in and like so that's kind of what John or what Jim was talking about. I'm at my doctor and they had to like blow the horn or the whistle or something that hey, this kid, my patient has measles. So they had me come in and like there was a bunch of you know state health inspectors poking and prodding and I was trotted out like you know the elephant man you know I'm a human being and I was just a kid with measles. It's kind of crazy, but so yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. Nobody wants to be the specimen.
Yeah. Guess in 1977 that wasn't such a common occurrence.
No, it wasn't. And it, of course, it was easy. Like, and I even think that I'll have to have my mom opine on this, but I think because we were neighbors, we went and got our vaccinations the same day or something. So there could have been a very distinct possibility with us being three houses down, and this is a rural area. This isn't like the suburbs. We had to have
Right.
gotten it. You know, that's not coincidental. Not
Yeah.
coincidental at all.
So on this note, I just went looking for embarrassing stories at the doctor's office, and I found a couple here. If you want me to go into them,
Oh, give me one.
all right. This guy by the name of handle Big Cat Therapist. So yesterday I went to the doctor for some intestinal bleeding. My doctor is fairly new to the office, and I've only met her once before. I'm only 21, so I've never had a reason for a doctor to go knuckle deep in my rectum before. But the doctor insisted it needed to be done for some tests. So I bend over the table. She lubes up and digs for treasure. I hadn't pooped in a day or so because it hurts when I do so. I was a bit stopped up. Upon starting to remove her finger, I immediately realized what's about to happen and try everything in my power to stop it. Too late. Doctor pulls her finger out and plop out lands a turd right on the floor.
I would not only change doctors, I would move states. So they couldn't share because you know that they have to share that on the network of doctors. Hey, I got
Oh,
this
yeah,
guy
yeah.
that's probably going to look you up because this just happened in my office. Like they talk about these things.
Yeah, right. Here's another one. Mine's not so much embarrassing as it is awesome. I I had the mumps during my first year of college, and along with that, I got orchitis. Do you know what orchitis is?
I can only imagine.
Swelling of the testicles caused by the mumps. And on his left side, which swelled up to the size of a potato.
Ah!
It was really painful and heavy, so I had to carry it everywhere for a while. I guess literally carry it. So I went to the doctor. He checked my bumps, and then I told him there was another problem. I dropped trowel, lay on the doctor bed thing, and he came over to examine. He laughed when he saw it because it was freaking huge and said, "What seems to be the problem?" Jokingly. It was at that moment I pointed to my regular size bollock and said, "This one shrank."
Oh,
Nicely played.
nicely played. Nicely played. Oh man. Um the, the poor guy, you know, where he said he had to carry it around like um there is a school that shall remain nameless that I might have known a few people from back in 1986, 87, 88, 89. And but anyway, somebody in a and honestly, not one of my friends, just somebody that went to the school, took a shot, like a full blown kick, kind of on purpose, like one of those buddy ha-has, but there was a misjudging of distance and they got kicked squaw right there.
Squaw.
And but there was like tusions and contusions and all the things that can be toosed. And but I know that they had a doctor's note like for the next month. They had a prescribed doctor's note that they could wear sweatpants and pajamas to school because jeans and such, you know,
Too
was
painful.
too painful. Yes. Rochambeau. Oh, John Barney, you're so
Nice.
cool. I was like, yeah, so you know what we're talking about then when we say squaw.
Squaw.
Oh
All
my.
right.
So, but oh, this is the kind of royal nonsuch and nonsense we're talking about.
All right. So you want to hear this one?
One more.
All right. So this occurred actually shortly after I was born, and we referred to it as the green pea incident. My brother, 2 years old, was moving to solid foods and absolutely loved peas. Mushed, boiled, fried, or in things, he loved them.
All I can think of is
What?
third grade.
Uh, that's another story. One day, my mom noticed that my brother wasn't going to the washroom. No big deal, she thought. It's only been a day. 2 days later, nothing's coming out. He kept eating and eating like the happy little fat toddler he was, eating all amounts of peas. My parents scheduled a day off work and took him to the doctor together. The doctor, of course, says he must be constipated. It happens to the best of us. At this point, it's been 4 days since he has gone to take a number 2. Doctor gives him a large dose of prescription strength X-Lax and suggests that we should probably keep an eye on him for the next while.
You think?
Yeah. As he's talking to my parents about what they should do, my brother starts to go. Bright neon green. He had eaten so many peas that the fiber had actually clogged him up and now was returning in force. The semi-liquidated deposit started flying out faster and faster, like you see in those comedy movies. Eventually, it settled down to a light stream, but not before his mist had covered the entire wall next to the examination table. Neon green mist all over the doctor's tools, his blood pressure cuff, his posters. It ruined the cushion on the table and stank to high heaven. My parents never went back to that doctor again. So, as you said, moving states.
It's never fun when your sibling turns into a party favor.
Miss Wilson. At least the doctor didn't shout jackpot when the feces shot out.
Raise your arm. The doctor yells out jackpot. Oh, man. But like I said, yeah, we've had a few people that stepped up to the plate and delivered some pretty awesome, awkward doctor moments. So this is exactly what this segment I set out to achieve. I wanted something lighthearted that to get people talking. And I get the feeling that there's probably a lot more stories out there that people just don't want to share them publicly. So that is what we're here for. We are a group therapy because we know everybody's been there. Everybody's had this story. You're not alone. You're not alone.
All right. Thank you very much, Brady. Once again, visit our website, www.playbyyourpodcast.com. At our website, you can see information about our show, some historical context, our urban dictionary type.
Our isms.
Isms, yeah. We use some words on this show that may seem unusual. If you go to our isms, you can find out the definition of said words. Also, you can purchase our T-shirt, and if you click on store at the top of the menu and click on that link, then click on the picture of the T-shirt, you can go to the Buy Me a Coffee platform, which is our crowdsourcing platform. You can buy your T-shirt there, and we will make sure you get that shirt.
And if you are local, I can guarantee almost overnight delivery.
Yes. Yes, John.
Tanya, or excuse me, Allison might be out of the question.
Yeah, Allison's a little far away. Yeah, John, probably a good thing you didn't have dinner, and probably a good thing you already had dinner, Tanya.
Hope it
of course, again, Tanya, you're probably not fazed by any of this. You've been in the wars. All right. So, on to me now. My topic, Brady, and audience always wants your input on this as well. Very simply, the topic is called "What Would You Do?" So I'm going to give you a scenario, and I'm going to give you choices as to how you would deal with said scenario. You can also come up with your own as well, your own choice. All right. Number 1, a safety question. What would you do if you're trapped on the 3rd floor in a building with only 2 exits, a window, and a front door? There's fire all around the building except for a small area under the window. What would you do? Jump out the window, go running out the door, stay at the top floor and wait for the fire department, or run around the building like a maniac screaming help?
Well, I saw too many. Um, I just saw too many episodes of MacGyver when I was a youth. So I'm thinking that a lot of my time would be trying to MacGyver my way out of the building, where
Yes.
I could tie this scarf to this chair and put it and lower myself down using that would be my first impulse. I'm going to do something like that.
And I'm sure it would
Um,
work perfectly like it always did for MacGyver.
always, I just need a drinking straw, its wrapper, or like a Gilligan's Island, I just needed a coconut shell.
Right.
And but if I could not MacGyver my way out of it, see now listen, it left enough ambiguity when you say bust out the door. Can I open the door? Is there fire in the hallway?
Doesn't say.
It does not stay. So if they mean bust out the door and run through the fire and the flames immediately, that's going to change my answer. So
And jumping out the window from the third floor, I mean, you're talking probably at least 30 feet.
yes.
Bones are going to break.
Bones are going to break. And this is it doesn't say what you're landing on. Um, am I jumping into grass? Am I jumping into concrete? Am I jumping into water? Am I jumping onto the tops of vehicles? It's probably going to influence my decision also. Or heaven forbid, if it's like one of the Vegas Red Rocks Casino, which overlooks a bluff. So if you're going out the window, you're going a lot farther than 30 feet. So,
Right.
oh man, I I think it would depend on what's on the other side of the door. If it's one of those cases like in Backdraft where you open up the door and then there's just flames, or can I open up the door and look and scan the situation?
Right.
So,
Me, I tend not to be too much of a risk taker, so I would probably stay there and wait for the fire department
yeah,
until the situation got so bad, probably that I would have to make another choice. But
have to, yeah,
I don't know. Interesting question, but
it is.
obviously that's just for starters. These are not really funny situations that I just gave you. They're more funnier situations that we'll get to here. For example, what would you do if you were being robbed by an unarmed man in your house?
Unarmed?
Yeah, now wait, you gotta wait for the choices.
Okay.
1, kick him squaw in the privates and run off. 2, nothing. 3, punch him. 4, give him what he wants. Or 5, start a confusing chat.
That would be fun. All right, man. We'll see. Once again, a lot of ambiguity here. How large and scary is this man? Um, you know, is it a 6'8" muscled, scarf faced, drooling, bug eyed? There's things I need to know. If it's just a normal dude that's trying to rob me, it's also going to depend. Is this daytime? Is this nighttime? Am I getting woken up? If I'm woken up from a slumber, he is probably going to be eating his pancreas and intestines because I am going to break out my best Bushido and Krav Maga moves and render him null and void.
Or as John says, when in doubt, Rochambeau.
Rochambeau. Yeah. But that also, if I'm just getting a clear shot where I could do an Evan McPherson and put it through the uprights.
See, you run a risk there too, because you better hit him squaw. Because if you don't hit him squaw, you got
They're
bigger
just gonna be
problems,
mad.
probably. Yeah. Or it could be one of those things where you hit him or you graze him and it doesn't hit him for about 15 seconds. So you got to stay alive for 15 seconds until it
Yeah.
actually hits him.
If you don't land the bitesticular kick, where it takes care of two with one shot, and you only do a grazing, if it's a unitesticular shot and a grazing at that, you run the risk of angering them
Yeah.
and getting their dander up a little bit more because they're already motivated enough to rob you. But if it's just a normal person, first, unless I will say that it would be kind of fun to have that conversation with them. I
Yeah.
think I would try to go the Murdoch in the A team route and just convince him that I'm crazier that he wants to mess with.
Right.
Oh, you're robbing me? Cool. I'm glad you came because then you're going to go in the freezer with the rest of the people that try to rob me. Hold on. I'm going to warm up my chainsaw and things like that, you know?
All right. So to explain my comment here, ladies, by the way, um, if you get injured in your privates as a male, there are two types of pain to that. If it's a direct shot, the pain is immediate.
And
If
vomitous.
yes, and vomitous.
You will vomit on the floor because of the pain.
If there's a grazing,
Ooh.
it literally takes about 15 seconds, and for 15
okay.
seconds you're thinking, is this going to hurt?
Uh,
Is this
Oh,
good?
and you're running off. It's like, oh, I got away with and it's strike.
Then it hits you, and then
Like,
you go to
hey,
your knees. It's like,
I'm fine. Like one of those tigers that get shot with the tranquilizer darts. Like, you know.
right. And I don't know if women have a comparable situation in regard to all that, but so that's why I said, if you're going to kick, you better make sure it's squaw, or
the old
it's either that.
Rochambeau.
Yeah, it's either that, or as Miss Wilson says, if the guy's high, he may not feel anything and go psycho on you. So there's a lot of chance there in that particular situation.
And we're not talking about like marijuana high where he's after your nachos. We're talking about like, how our how the sheriff's department would describe the inmates on PCP or angel dust.
Right. All right. Next situation. What would you do if you were in a bus next to a woman you don't know and you passed gas? One, try to make the same noise with the chair. Two, nothing. Three, blame it on the person in front of you. Four, act like you don't know who it was. Or five, apologize. Now we had a similar situation last week with our
Today I messed
our
up.
prison guard, our corrections officer, who had taken her prisoner there to court, and she was standing beside him and
Had some intestinal distress.
and cleared the courtroom. And she chose to act like she didn't know who it was and gag along with everyone else. Now, Brady
Oh my
Liming,
gosh! Yeah.
what would you do, Brady Liming?
Oh,
It's probably a little harder to go with that because you're in the same seat. You're it.
yeah. If it's like you put the quarter in the Vibrolux, that they used to have in, at the malls where you lay back in it and put the quarter in the rumble seat. If you did not do that, it was, I mean, does it say it? Does it just say that it was malodorous, or did it have report?
It doesn't say. I'm sure the situation would different situations would necessitate different solutions.
Well, absolutely,
If there
because
were noise involved,
if it was with report, there's a sound that needs to be accounted for that you can blame because if it was audible, it's like, oh, you could blame some, you know, in a bus, it's crowded with people. Somebody could have ventriloquist and through it.
Ventriloquist.
You know, kind of like the
Yeah.
cartoon, meow, and makes it come from a different direction. But if there is a sound, it cannot be denied. It's something needs to be accounted for. Like, oh, there was that, you know. um, but if there is no sound involved, it is very easy to make someone else the patsy. Especially if wait, sorry. Who is Patsy and what kind of rap did they have hung on them that their name became synonymous with being framed or you know what I mean?
Yeah, taking the blame for something you
Taking the
didn't
fall,
do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, but you could blame it on somebody else, especially if there's a small child or someone that's elderly. You
Or a
could blame
dog,
it
a service
what?
dog, a service dog.
Service dog. That's it. Except the dog is already keeled over, feet up, making a dog gagging sound. No, that's going to depend on it. Honestly, I think the whole sound angle would be impossible because it's a bus and it's loud.
Yeah.
And there's a report that can drown out the noise of the bus. I think you got a bigger problem on your hands.
Or
You're
in
gonna
your
have to
nose.
explain other things.
Or in your nose.
Yeah.
So let's turn this question. Okay, so what if you were playing the part of the woman in this scenario and someone next to you did that? What would you do?
I just don't know. I really what, Eric?
What, so would you not acknowledge it? Would you acknowledge it?
I
Would
would
you
no
get
sell
up?
it. I would
Would
no
you would
sell
you
it.
would you get up and move to another seat?
Well, I mean, it depends. Are we talking about garden variety bus flatulence, or did somebody feel
Because of
like they
course that's
stirred the
garden
ponds in
variety.
landfill? But
I don't
anyway,
know.
yeah,
There are choices to be made on both sides of this scenario.
I think probably in reality, what will happen is both will no sell it. They're just gonna act like it didn't happen and go
And give each other side eye glances.
literally the stink eye.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I just think there's no acknowledgement of it unless it did have report. And like I said, that changes everything because they each know there's no getting around that.
So if you're unfamiliar with the report, if you've ever bought fireworks, the fireworks that make a sound on the
Bottle rockets.
packaging, it says with report. So that's the sound. So yeah.
The pow, the bang.
All right. Jim says claim it and say you're welcome. John says own it and shrug my shoulders. Miss Wilson, what if it was a very attractive woman? Would that change your answer?
Yeah, it would.
It probably would.
It probably would. If I had Scarlett Johansson sitting beside of me, I'm going to behave very differently. I'm definitely throwing somebody under that bus. Probably. Can you believe these people? Gosh, are they poorly trained house pets around here?
What Philistines?
Ruffians, ne'er-do-wells, hooligans.
How much do they do well? Nair.
Nair. Yeah. Nair have I air. Anyway. Oh,
right.
move right along, Aric.
Next scenario. What would you do if you were in the middle of a crowded street and your trousers fell and everyone saw your underwear?
That just sounds like Tuesday. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Pick up your trousers and put them back on and go running off to a big shop. Keep walking with your trousers down. Cry, faint, or hit everyone who laughs.
Yeah, that's gonna go well.
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna go worse, standing there or doing that. Oh my. Once again, so many parameters here. I- If let's say I'm like at Kenwood Town Center or someplace very crowded, and that happens, you just kind of move along. You duck into the store, maybe go to the restroom, and stand on the can so nobody sees any feet or anything, and you just kind of hide out there for a minute. Um, but if it's like in sorry, we're laughing at Mr. Barney's comment.
Sorry, ladies, I'm married.
um, but let's say I'm in downtown Sardinia. There's just a few people in the street, and then it happens.
In downtown Sardinia nowadays, there are only going to be a few people in the street, if any.
That is true. But it would definitely change my reaction. You would have to laugh a little bit. You'd have to laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Gary says shuffle and skip. Maybe it will be the next TikTok trend.
Oh, it very well could be.
This is true. All right, Brady.
Yes.
What would you do if you meet an alien? 1, I would friendly introduce myself to it and hope it doesn't want to eat me. 2, I would admit myself to a mental hospital. Or 3, you would ask it to take you back to its home planet.
Definitely one. Definitely one.
Definitely.
We could get to 3 eventually, but I have to have a chat with it first. Yeah, I think. See, I've played this scenario in my head so many times that I'm, in the backyard or right down the road, and the ship comes down. What would I do? I mean, if there's no threatening, if they're just walking up, I'm gonna be cool, man. I'm gonna like try to converse and welcome them. If there's no threatening, I'm gonna try to communicate and things like that.
Okay.
That would be Marvy.
All right. Miss Wilson says the last scenario, if your trousers drop in the street, is a better reason for wearing clean underwear rather than if you get in the wreck. So let's discuss that one for a moment.
Oh.
So my supposition is here, if you're in an accident, your underwear are going to be dirty anyway, even if they were clean before the accident. I think some evacuation might take place anyway.
Of the vehicle?
No, of your body.
This is like darn right I'm getting out of the car. But oh my.
The contents of your bowels, if you will.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just more an embarrassment thing, but like I think I agree. There's probably some situations where that's going to happen, so that might negate it, but nonetheless, equally embarrassing, I guess. But kind of back to this alien thing, Aric. What would you do? I mean, I would try to converse with it.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, and fighting with it was not one of the choices, so I wouldn't try that. I mean, that sounds a little dangerous, but I mean, I'd probably be like you. I would try to communicate maybe and try to find out what's going on with it.
Well, see, I thought your answer would be different because you're a Styx fan. Because I just thought you would climb aboard and head off to the sky.
Climb aboard the starship and headed for the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought your Styx fandom was going to lead you to that answer.
You tried to set me up and I missed the spike.
But
all right. Next situation.
Yes.
Now, there are no ages given here.
Yeah.
But what would you do if a kid starts to kick your rear end and its mother doesn't intervene?
My kid?
One, a kid,
Oh, a
not
kid.
not your kid.
Okay.
I would stare at the mother until she hopefully lectures her child. 2, I would kick the child's butt. Or 3, I would insult the child.
I think I would insult the mother first. Um, oh man. I have been now not kicking my butt, but I have been in situations in public where there's a child that's so poorly behaved and they're like bumping it like they stepped on my foot 3 or 4 times, and not because they're being a typical kid, because they're being an unruly menace. There's a difference. We're not just talking about little kidism. We're talking about a kid that it was never acceptable. Like you know what I mean, the behavior I'm talking about. So,
Right.
if the kid was injuring me and pounding me about, I'm gonna say something first. But when I have been in that situation for real, the first thing I did is I did look at the parents with a look like I just smelled, bad cheese. Kind of like a, you know,
Like a kid
uh,
was hitting you?
kept on bumping into me and just being unruly and doing something, and I don't remember the exact circumstances, but I knew it involved turning my head if I could. It was like, that one of those looks.
Right.
Like, just say, and I quote, "If you ain't going to do nothing, I am," kind of deal.
Did you? Did she?
They moved along.
Yeah.
So, with no reprimand, just like, come
Right.
on. They were visibly annoyed at the child, not me, but they weren't gonna like. I
weren't
would have
weren't
been.
going to admonish the child in front of you
Oh yeah, because if I would
or
have
at
done
all.
something like that, I would have been visiting the car. It would not have been a good visit.
Yes. All right, next scenario. Now, Brady, you're an animal lover. Now, if you believed in this particular situation, what would you do if reincarnation was real and you could
Oh.
choose what animal you become in your next life? 1, I would be a cat. 2, I would be a dog. 3, I would be a bird. Or you can choose something else.
House dogs, my dogs have it pretty good.
Yeah.
They live a life of luxury and leisure. Um, but it doesn't say what species of bird, but I think I might go to the other. I always thought a dolphin that lives in a Caribbean area would be a sweet gig. One thing, I don't like seafood, but evidently, if I'm a dolphin, I don't care.
I don't think you can be a dolphin if you don't like
Yeah,
seafood, can you?
yeah. So, but like I said, a good, you know, Caribbean, a dolphin that frequents Aruba area, maybe something like that.
Aruba, Jamaica. All right.
What about ye?
I mean, probably some sort of house dog. I mean, you're right. That's a pretty good gig. I mean, there's not a whole lot of stress in that life, I'm guessing,
Just once a day when the mailman comes.
right? Or, if you don't get let out to go to the bathroom in time, that could be
Oh,
stressful.
I don't think it is. Now, for one of my dogs, it is. For the other one, there's no. Like, hey, I gotta go. This is carpet. Cool with me. And they don't. Bruno does not care much.
Yeah. All right, next scenario. What would you say if the whole world were listening? If you had every ear in the entire world listening to you, what would you say?
Dang.
One, I would tell them to follow me on social media. Two, I would do a TED Talk like speech. Or three, I would say nothing. Or you can choose your own.
I kind of like the TED Talk. I would like to give the world a TED Talk.
About?
Being nice and how this is stupid. Hey, Russia, we don't want to invade you. We don't want to live there. Okay? There's no shenanigans. Just so chill out.
Yeah.
You know, in the Middle East, now people just knock it off. You know, it just like have, if I had their whole ear where they were attentive, like my seventh period science class, which they're very attentive, by the way. That was a compliment. And and they're
Because our
very
seventh period science class was not attentive. Hence
no.
we were writing chapters.
Yes.
But
I haven't
continue.
threatened them with that yet. But yeah, I think I would just have a sit down and say, look, here's the way it is. Trust me. I don't want to be your leader, but knock it off, you know?
So you're going for the betterment of world society
I am.
with your TED Talk.
And at the end of my TED talk, I would say, follow me on social media.
You can't say both. All right. I probably would give a TED Talk too, but my TED Talk may be something like about what great music sounds like and what horrible music sounds like, in my opinion on the subject. Maybe something like that. I don't know. I don't think I would try to get all deep
Change
and
hearts and minds.
exact. Well, you change hearts and minds on that topic, but I mean, not about world peace or anything like that. But all right. So next situation here is a true ethical dilemma.
Oh, a conundrum.
Speaking of the betterment of world society, what would you do if you had the chance to end all war by killing 10 innocent children? Would you kill the children? Would you not kill the children?
I don't like this question. I pass.
Pass.
No, I couldn't do it.
Well, the third choice, I would tell someone about it and ask if they could do it for me.
Oh,
So do you think that's worse than doing it yourself?
I don't know. I mean, can I? uh, I would just have to be put in that situation. I mean, I don't think I could do it.
I don't think I could either.
I think I could much sooner and easier fight the baddies.
Well, matter of fact, I wouldn't even think about doing it.
Yeah,
My answer would be I would not do it.
yes,
People are going. If people aren't waging war, I think people will do other idiotic things, and I don't think
true.
my killing those children will cure the world of adults doing idiotic things. So
Yeah,
therefore,
like eating
I will.
Tide Pods and such.
Right, and so therefore, I will not do that.
We're
So,
listening to Kanye West.
yeah, yeah, right. All right, here's a question that's one that's apropos for the current moment, with the Powerball being worth $1.2 billion. Billion. So what would you do if you had to choose between winning the lottery or living twice as long?
I think I'm gonna have to go with the lottery Because I could stash some money in a CD or in a money market to accrue interest so I could extend my life by getting revolutionary anti-aging treatment. But if I lived twice as long and nobody else around me is, eh,
Well, I mean, you'll have relatives, right?
well, true, but
I mean, there'll be
I
relatives were removed and
my great 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 it'd be like John Tyler's like
grandson who
yeah,
died
John
like 2 years ago.
2 years ago, right. But
Well,
anyway.
but you're living twice as long. So let's say you live to be the average age of a man, which I think is like 78 years old.
Mhm.
Okay. So that would be 156 years old. So you would die in the year, let me think about this. 2000
100 ish. A long time from
ish.
now. Buck Rogers time.
Yeah. So I gotta get the calculator because I can't do this in my head.
The calculator. I was
Calculator.
calling it that for like an entire class period a couple weeks ago because I was just waiting to see how long it took for somebody to say, "What are you saying? Use your calculators."
All right, you would die in the year 2127. So you would still have 105 years of life left
Yeah.
from right now.
I think I would still go with the lottery because not only would I live my best life, I could pass on along that to my children so they could have their best life. So it's like the double good, you know?
Okay. John asked a good question. Though. What is the quality of that life?
I mean,
I guess you would assume that the life is of a good quality.
yeah,
Although, again, you're making assumptions, but
right.
um, I think I would also go with living, or winning the lottery. I think. Um, do I want to live to be 156?
Maybe.
I
I may or may not want to live to be 156, but I do want to win the lottery so I could do things for me and my children now
yeah,
and my dogs and my friends. And
all
heck,
right,
our earbud listeners.
certainly.
If I win the $1 billion lottery, all of our earbud, all six of you are gonna get.
Sexily.
No.
No, that would be a good way to increase listenership of the show.
Oh yeah.
I'll pay you to listen. All right, Brady. Another ethical question here. What would you do if your friend has terrible breath? Would you tell them?
What are the other options? Will you tell them or not tell them? I just
Depends
want
on
to hear
how
what the
bad
other
it.
choices are. That well,
It depends on how bad it is. Is the third choice.
I mean, let's say we were in the car where we went to Piqua the other night,
Yeah.
and you were giving mouth flatulence, and it was making me ill, and like I was going to be worried that if you went out, and, you know, doing your job of Principalia, and you had parent teacher conferences and was like putting people in the hospital. I would not want you to do that. But if it's just one of those momentary things, I mean, it's not like I'm hanging out in your grill anyway.
Okay.
So I'm going to say I'm not really going to do anything unless it could be a life altering issue. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. Now, John's answer is absolutely and give them a stick of gum. That works too. Um, and I'm kind of on the same note you are with it. I guess it depends on if it's um, uh, causing distress to my uh,
Existence.
nasal my nasal passages. You know, if it's causing distress there, I may say something. Or
Yeah,
I mean,
and
let's be honest. I probably wouldn't. I really probably wouldn't.
yeah, I probably would. And like there's a lot of factors in that. There's good old morning mouth, that
Yep.
can knock out a yak at 10 yards. And then I just consume a spicy pizza, or did I,
Could be a temporary situation.
did I just
Now,
did I?
now
Yeah.
that would color my answer too, because if I thought it was a temporary situation, I may say something. Say, "Hey, dude, you might want to chew some gum or something because you got that going on there." Now, if it's a constant thing, I may not say something. I may not spend as much time with that person, but I may not say anything about it.
Yeah, I see. I'm kind of the opposite. Like, if I know just a fleeting thing, it's like no need to pick a scab. But
Yeah.
but let's say somebody that's obvious your friend has gone on a bad trip and their teeth are rotting out, and that something has happened. They're not taking care of themselves. You're thinking it's going to affect them. Yeah, it's like,
Well, now you seem to be talking about a bigger situation than just bad breath.
well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, this
That's
could be
true
a
because we're going with appearances and things like that.
yeah.
But every time every time I'm around you, the house plants and the pets wilt. There's a problem.
Mm,
Kind of in the Lion King, whenever he went around, the weeds would fall.
yeah, right. So John says also goes the other way. I want someone to tell me. That's a good way to look at it. Some people probably wouldn't want to be told though. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just really depends. Miss Wilson would tell her friend and give them a Tic Tac or mint. So yeah, our audience members who answered were very confident about that. Me, on the other hand,
Yeah.
I honestly probably wouldn't. But
Yeah.
all right, Brady, you've lived this one. We'll make this one the last one because I know what you did about this situation.
Uh-oh.
So I'll see if your answer changed.
Uh-huh.
What would you do if you're at a hair salon and got a really bad haircut? Would you
Oh,
tell the
God.
hairdresser? You know what I'm thinking of.
Oh, heck yeah. I didn't have to say a word because the owner of the salon was like, "What the heck are you doing?" Um, all right, all right. So this has been brought up in episode, it's come up before. But I'd come home from college and it was Brown County Fair Week, and I'd come home from Ohio State, and I got home on a Friday, so I immediately just went and got an appointment to get my hairs cut. And I wanted a little bit of clipper action on the side, got to get the side high and tight, and and then so they went to use the clippers on the side of my head, and they forgot to put the guard on. So they did me like Full Metal Jacket for a small stripe. Like they just shaved me. And I was like, the craziest part was my face, because like as soon as it happened, I just kind of went, you know, and I think I
Now,
said,
mind you, back in the day, 1990, 89, whenever this
yeah,
was, I
89.
mean, longer hair was in vogue at that point. So,
Yeah, it was. And so my hair was kind of longish, but like I was able, I was able to try to rectify it a little bit, you know, but and then of course the owner of the salon, after politely admonishing the person, she tried to fix it, but that certainly
and
wasn't going
and
to glue it back on.
and you had a description of that haircut. Do you remember what your description was?
Remind me.
Your hair looked like fur.
Yes, I said it looks like fur, and I don't I'm trying I don't know why I chose that that description.
But it was accurate.
Yes, because I was angry, and it's like this just looks like fur.
All right,
Yeah.
so in that scenario, the owner of the salon caught it and tried to fix it. So if you got a bad haircut and no one saw it or no one acknowledged it, would you demand a refund? Would you tell him you hate it? Or would you lie and tell the hairdresser that you like it?
That is tough because I've had haircuts that I've not been happy with. I'm like, "Ugh," and they can tell I'm trying to be polite. How do we look? You know,
Right.
good. But yeah, where it was awkward, and they knew that I wasn't happy with it.
Yeah.
But really, at some point, usually what I did if I was away from home base and they messed up my hair, then just whenever I would get home, I would have my aunt who is a beautician fix it. But where the place she worked at was a little bit of a trek. So once I got older, it was hard, was a working person. It was hard to get to my aunt's salon. So but yeah, it's not a good thing. Everybody's had the Anybody out there of our earbud nation ever gotten just like a really bad one where they royally messed up? This would, you'll have to tell us about it because like that, there's not much you could do, is there?
Not really. Just got to wait for it to grow back, I guess.
We're Cincinnati Reds fans and we grew up Reds fans. There was the famous story that Reds legend Chris Sabo from the 1990 wire to wire team, um, that he liked his flat tops and his burr haircuts very precise way. And he was at a barber shop, and the barber wasn't doing it right, and he walked out with half of his head. Obviously, it was halfway done. The guy wasn't doing it right, so he just left.
Yeah.
The famous story from our locale. So, how do you mess up a flat top or a burr? I mean, there's always so much. It already looks like fur.
True. All right. So there's your what would you do's. Good discussion.
Yes.
All right. Once again, one more time, visit our website, www.playedbyyourpodcast.com. And again, you can check out our t-shirts. They're very soft. And thanks once again to
Soft.
let's see, you said Tim Hoagland and Natalie Wagner. Is that right? Our
Yes, it
latest
is.
t-shirt purchasers. Thank you very much. All right. Anything else for the good of the order?
No, sir. I think we're good.
All righty. Well, audio version of this podcast will come out on Friday morning, 3 a.m. By the way, on a side note here, we just went over 17,000 listens in the history of the show. So thank you all very much. Just
I can't believe it.
I know, just continue to go to heights that we never expected. But again, that's all attributable to all of you. So thank you very much. But you can find that audio podcast. That's just audio numbers. That doesn't count the video stuff. But you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and the iHeartRadio app. Spotify also has the video podcast now as well. So if you want to watch the video, you can watch it there. As far as video goes, in addition to Spotify, we're on YouTube. Search our YouTube channel, Play It By Your Podcast. Also follow our Twitch channel.
Twitch.
Play It By Your Podcast there as well. But the shows are only archived, I believe, for 2 weeks on Twitch. So if you go on that platform, you need to watch it pretty quick. Social media, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagrams. You can find those links on our website. You can also interact with us via email at admin@playedbyyourpodcast.com. If you want to leave a voice message for us, You can click the link at your podcast provider. You can, and on the iHeartRadio app, you can click the microphone, which is entitled Talkback, and you can leave us a voice message that way. All right. Anything else? You want to take us out?
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Play It By Ear podcast. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter at Play It By Ear Pod 2, and our website at anchor.fm/Play It By Ear podcast. Thanks again, and join us next time as we play it by ear.